Hi Akshay, I'm Rohan Verma. I'm the co-founder CEO at Breathe Well-being. It's we help people prevent, manage, reverse type 2 diabetes. That's what we do. And how we do that is we have a clinically proven digital program through which we help people with type 2 diabetes to lose weight, control their blood glucose, and here's the best part. We help them get off all medications completely. And how we go about that is we have built our verified protocols in diet, exercise, and meditation, and we deliver these same verified protocols through a very unique 4 C's approach. We're the pioneers of these 3 C's or 4 C's approach. So one of which is coaching, second is community, curriculum, and champions. It's been 8 years we've been in this space. We've grown almost 10x every single year of our existence. This is completely direct to consumer and word of mouth and organic. But when I started as an entrepreneur, we were B2C, then we became B2B for the longest time, and then we came back to become direct to consumer. I'm a second time founder in the healthcare space. Previously built a profitable B2B well-being venture where we were creating these well-being programs and selling it to corporates across Asia. And my past life was an investment banker with Nomura and a strategy consultant in McKinsey and Company. And prior to that, I was an entrepreneur back in my college days where I built like an edtech startup and sold that off in Singapore. So that's been my journey in the last 11 years.
Amazing. Let's start with the first venture. You built that edtech startup and you sold it in Singapore. What was that one about?
So what we did was we created these smart classrooms on top of each lecture theaters. A student need not carry notebooks or books inside a lecture theater. He can just walk into a lecture theater with an iPad and just download the notes from the cloud, scribble, take notes, and just put them back onto the cloud, and anyone could access them. So that was the kind of seeding idea. Because in our college there was a dearth. You can't just walk into any lecture theater because you're not registered for it. You won't have access to those notes or books. But what I did was I built something as a rebel in parallel, and now anyone could walk into any classroom. And college ended up banning it, and yeah, that's what happened.
Amazing, amazing. Okay. This would be like a what they say as a B2I, like sales to institutions, like a B2I business, right?
Yeah. So we found users for it. We couldn't monetize it. That's where the technology was working well, and we realized there were huge barriers to entry.
Institutions are very slow decision makers. But how did you get users for it? You didn't need an institution buy in to make this live?
So that was the biggest learning I think I had. We used to just stand outside some canteen and just tell people that this is what we have built. If you download this app, this is what you'll be able to do. And students liked the idea, they started downloading it. And we acquired the notes and all of that from people who were already registered for the class. So we married the supply and the demand. That's how we acquired users in a very unscalable way. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess the seeds of entrepreneurship were born back then. Tell me the journey after that.
I'm from a middle class family. My mom just retired as a principal after 35 years in a school. Dad is in the Navy, Merchant Navy, so was traveling the world with them. I did my second degree in entrepreneurship back in college days. That's where the seeds of this entrepreneurship got sown. One of this manifested in the form of this location-based learning. The other was launching an event where we made a lot of money, like just monetized TEDx as an event and started selling that. So these were like the early seeds that were sown. And when the edtech thing was not flying, did not take off, I came back to India to work in banking.
Yeah, that's the B school dream is to join either investment banking or consulting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was not in B school. I was just did my undergrad over there, did my electronic engineering, and then came back to India to do investment banking because that's what all the cool people were doing that day. So I realized that maybe I'm not a startup guy. I should just do this cool things. And I realized that was the biggest mistake of my life, just following the herd mentality and locking myself in a huge company. And I quit that job without having another job in hand and started doing some odd jobs. Just became was preparing for my CFA level 2 back then, but also didn't want to come back home. I was in Bombay, the city that has just given me everything in life. Just love Bombay. Was interviewing for like insurance agents job. So just did that for 3 4 days, selling insurance door to door in 2011 12. So did some opening acts, open mics where Tanmay Bhatt was traveling with them in like Kali Pili taxi, sharing the cab bill. So 2011 12, and then McKinsey decided to interview me. So just one round after the other, 5 6 rounds, got in. Simply thought that I'm going to be a back end analyst, but there's no such thing over there, which I was interviewing for. And I was looking at the entire interview process as a just an experience. Worked across 7 sectors, And just the kind of responsibility that was given, just that gave me a lot of confidence as a 23, 24 year old. You're in boardrooms that are expected to navigate tough situations and influence heads of verticals. So that was like a turning point in my life. 2 years working there, made great friends, learned a lot. But I was not deriving meaning after 2 years of just doing highly intellectual stuff, working with some brilliant minds. At the end of the day, when I'm building a slide at 1 a.m., but there was no why, what's happening. So I think that the seeds were sown back in college, but then it just came to bite me. Like, if the best bloody job in the planet is that's not giving me meaning and joy, and my only plan in life is now to just get out of McKinsey, do some 2 years of VC work, PE work, to get into Stanford's and the Harvard. Why do I want to do that? Because I want to do something of my own, because that's the time I feel really alive. I had a couple of offers back then. उस क्यों करना है VC? Because बी स्कूल जाना है, एंड देन आफ्टर दैट क्या करना है, लोन उतारना है, उसके बाद क्या करना है, खुद का कुछ करना है. Like this 6 years of, I just one night in 2015, 2 a.m. I was just creating a deck for a real estate client. And I just saw the next years, 6 years of my life play out in front of me. When I realized, यार करना है इनमें जब खुद का है, so why not do it now? When I'm like a 26-year-old guy, and I have had zero savings, but I still had 4 5 months left in McKinsey. I can still save something and do something of my own. So I think that's where that that seed got grown. And my school friend Aditya, who's a co-founder at Breathe Wellbeing with me, very lucky to have him in this journey. He was heading to B school, Carnegie Mellon, and we ended up chatting for like many months, exploring some weird ideas, right from dating apps to something like Urban Company, Urban Lab, or something like a housing.com, which was like the in thing back then. We just, both of us were into sports, fitness, football, basketball, doing fitness. And that's the time when ClassPass in US was getting really popular. Payal Kadakia was doing a fantastic job just galvanizing the supply of fitness studios, enabling it on a marketplace model through a single pass. So we attempted doing something similar. We had that inclination towards it, disinterested obsession, as Paul Graham says, something towards that. यार ये ऐसा लग रहा है कि effortless रहेगा क्योंकि हमें मजा आता है करने में. Because it needs some real sweating when you call it as a fitness startup. That's what we started in 2015. It was called as Class Hop. And that was our start of an 8-year-old adventure, which is continuing and just growing right now.
Okay, so for people who don't know ClassPass, like the in the US, there's this culture of yoga classes, Pilates, and whatever different, like what Cult is doing in India now, those short duration, high intensity workout classes. So ClassPass basically allowed you to go into any fitness studio and attend that one session instead of signing up for a year's membership. So it was like a very built for the millennials platform, and that is what you started with ClassHop.
Yeah, that's right. And I can sum up why that model didn't work for us. Firstly, it could only work in very small micro colonies where the supply was a lot and high quality supply was there. And obviously, our toolkit as entrepreneurs was also not that great. We were trying to do some scalable stuff when it really needed it. The model did not need a mobile app to make it work. We could have actually made, we could, to test it out, we could have done it on Excel. That's all you need. And we wasted like 9 10 months of our life. We were literally dancing at 6 a.m. in RWA colonies, trying to activate those colonies. So literally, you could have like multiple videos. You can find multiple videos of me and Aditya, 6 a.m., different colonies, doing Zumba classes, trying to activate aunties, why Zumba or fitness dance is the way to go, or CrossFit is the way to go. And you know what? You just experience all these three classes now, purchase our subscription, and you can do all of them together. But the behavior was they just wanted to just do one thing, right? And the people who really love the class pass model, we will always incur losses on them. We still get calls from girls who love the product so much. They used to drive us into losses because we only made money if people eventually did not go. They just purchased subscription from us and they ended up not utilizing it, which is flip side of a freemium model, right? The super users are the ones who drive you into losses. It's a difficult model to execute. You could have executed that at scale had you had supply across cities, which Cult eventually ended up creating on their own. And that was the biggest learning. You have to control supply if you want to create a good, meaningful experience for any user. And that's what we pivoted into 9 10 months from there, where we started creating our own well-being programs based on the requirements that were coming in from corporates. So that was the Breathe Wellbeing 1.0 as a brand, where we would helping companies drive employee engagement, employee retention, employee health through a holistic well-being program. And that's where Aditya and I are. While we were doing this, we also started becoming experts. So I'm a CrossFit level 2 trainer, a mindfulness coach. Aditya is an ACE certified behavioral health coach. And by virtue of doing that, we just ended up saying, yeah, certifications hi le lete hain hum, because we just become like experts in this field. And we started creating our own programs.
This is the pivot to corporates is around 2017, you said.
2016.
2016. Okay. And
And we got into GSF then. We got into GSF then and pitched our B2B. Then we started monetizing that. Yeah.
what you were selling to corporates is like a service where you're saying we will send trainers to your campus to conduct these classes. Like that was.
A combination of both. The market at that point in time asked only for workshops because corporate well-being workshops of whether it's yoga or Zumba or nutrition or doctor sessions, all of that. And I would say 70% of the market would still be there. But while we were trying building these fitness communities offline, understanding what drives adherence, we were becoming really good at building game design into online products. And we just started gaining some level of mastery, some level of expertise in how do you drive engagement on an online platform through game design. So that's something that we kept doing. And then when corporates saw the power that whatever session that they did offline, which was very expensive for them, it used to at best activate only 1 to 2% of the employees. The online program that we did, we mastered the art of marketing. How do you activate employees into participating, and then how do you make higher number of employees retain onto that? So we launched some challenges, whether it was steps challenges or fitness challenges or nutrition challenges or a weight loss challenge, and we did that really well. So HRs really loved that because they had never experienced this sort of engagement from anyone. So we ended up having like accounts who were paying us, literally committed to paying a 3.5 crores in 3 years, and which was like a huge deal. So our entire 7-member startup was literally profitable in no time before we hit 2018, doing some 2.5 3 crores of revenue and having 50,000 subscribers who are engaged, but the TAM was not that high. So I think while doing sales, we realized we had to influence the corporates to create budgets for such a thing. So that was another learning. If the client is already not spending on it, it's very difficult. It requires a influencing of another level of marketing or PR of another level to influence them to create those budgets. And only the budgets can only get created if you are helping a client directly increase revenue or directly decrease cost. There cannot be any hops involved. So that's why we realized our time is low, and we were just, at least I as an entrepreneur was just realigning my internal expectations, going through some low times, some really low times back in 2018 and 19. Yeah.
Like you thought that this would never be more than a couple of $1 million ARR business.
Yeah. So that's what was sinking into us while we were doing some business development. That at best this is gonna be like a 3 4 million sort of a business in 5 years, and it required a lot of push sales. So I think that feeling started sinking in 2018, when after 1 year of BD, it was not much to show, like 10 15 clients across Asia, and those clients loved us, and they still call us, when are you launching B2B? And we say, no, we're not. But they still love us because we did that really well. We went really deep into it. It's just that expanding the contracts or the clients was a challenge for us. It eventually became like a contract renewal business. And that's where Aditya and I stopped deriving meaning out of it.
Can you describe what was the product that you were selling? It was like a combination of on-site workshops plus like a digital workshops.
So we had components of fitness, diet, and meditation, and we had built game design into driving engagement among employees towards all these offerings, whether it was getting consumed through coaching or curriculum, which was the main thing back then, or community, which we were driving through game design and challenges, something that I had learned during my time at CrossFit, that how game design actually activates anyone to push themselves. So this is what we are selling, and we used to take guarantee that if you don't see 80% of your organization participate, you don't pay us. And there was nobody able to put the money where the mouth is, and HRs were just blown away. How can these people just come in and guarantee participation? Is something we are targeting for the last 10 years, because we just knew how to drive engagement, right? We knew the messages that are going to work. We knew what employees would love to do on our platform.
And the delivery was all online, or you were like
Online, all online, apart from workshops that used to happen. Some of the corporates used to purchase workshops in parallel.
that was an add-on separately priced?
That was an add-on, but it used to have a good traction as well. Almost like we were serving corporates in almost 150 plus towns and cities, and we used to see even more massive engagement in tier 2 and tier 3. So the luckily for us, I got deeply into meditation back in 2017. Almost went for my third Vipassana course in 2018 at Toshita Meditation Center.
You did the third, like a full 10-day course.
Yeah. So I've done five of them till date. And the third one was like the most game changing because I was just cut off from my team, cut off from everyone. Just made a promise to myself 2018 end. Because both Aditya and I had just become very comfortable doing the previous thing. And we had the joy level was going down, the excitement level was going down, and our opportunity cost was so high in life, right? We built something that could not because we had like contracts for 3 years. So where can we harbor our disinterested obsession? So we still figured that we still love well-being as a space. We still love diet and exercise and meditation. We just hopelessly in love with that field, and we're just hopelessly in love with what we do. But it's just unfortunate that the market is not there. So we just started asking ourselves, can we just upsell to corporates a bit more? Just create even a bigger promise, a 10x promise. And that's when we saw what Livongo Health was doing in US, and we got motivated and inspired by it. And we said, is there an opportunity? And when then we looked at our data, all these 50,000 subscribers that we had in corporates, people who are just like Aditya and me below the age of 35. When we looked at our data, 50,000 subscribers, and you always get learnings from watching what your super users do, because super users make your product. You never make your product. It's the super users who tell you what to do. So I think thankfully for us, we had that insight back then. The 20% of the user base were our super users who were spending more than 30 minutes on our platform. We decided to just go deeper into that. Interestingly, more than 90% of our super users turned out they were not millennials. They were literally, most of the super users were not millennials, and we thought something's wrong with the data. How can it be that 90% of them are above the age of 35? We built something so mobile app focused. This doesn't make sense. Something's wrong with the data. We decided to interview those people, and we realized those are the people within corporates who actually had a need for what we were doing. These were people who were suffering with type 2 diabetes. They were women who were suffering with PCOD. There were other men who were suffering with blood pressure or hypertension. And what they unanimously loved about us was the game design aspect, the community aspect. Men with type 2 diabetes were actually teaming up with other men who had type 2 diabetes, and they were sharing their blood glucose readings with each other. Women with PCOD, they were motivating each other to just get fit and just get rid of PCOD. That just gave us the insight. Maybe this is what we need to focus on: chronic diseases. And the only way we can do that is now we should do a clinical study and pick up one therapy, do a clinical study, and then we wanted to upsell to corporates. कि ये आपके, this is your 5,000 employees, but did you know that 500 of them have diabetes or PCOD, and we have, boy, do we have a specific program for you, and we can upsell. That was the whole thinking. And we decided to do a clinical study on type 2 diabetes. Why? Because my mother was a type 2 diabetic. Aditya's father was a type 2 diabetic. They're very much alive and healthy right now, but they're no longer type 2 diabetic. And we made them part of the clinical study. We did that on 181 type 2 diabetic patients. There was a family doctor of ours who allowed us to run this on his patients. And graciously we accepted that we need to do this clinical study before we speak to anyone in the corporates. And interestingly, we were really stuck up because we had built, what we had solved for was, how do you make patients adhere to lifestyle interventions? That was our USP. It was emerging as our USP. And within 2 months of these doctors patients being put in the program, and we used to say no to them. No, our program is only meant for corporates. You're not the right sort of customers for us. Please go away, because we want to do B2B. I don't, because we will not know how to scale when you guys come in. So we literally, because, and these people are bringing their relatives because they saw their insulin levels go down. The insulin that they were taking in as injections, the doctors were reducing their insulin units. The doctors were reducing their medications while they were part of this clinical study, and they were blown away. Sharma ji sitting in Rohini had never seen his 10-year-old medication go down, and he was delighted by this clinical study. And we thought, well, boy, we have something interesting. and we thought we should raise funds. Now this is 2019, and guess what? I had 73 investors reject us.
What were you charging corporates, like a per employee per month or per employee per year?
100 rupees per employee per month, so 1,000 rupees per employee. But if they're taking it in bulk, it might come down to 50 rupees per employee per month.
What would you charge for the diabetes product extra? Like initially you wanted to sell that to corporates, right? So
Yeah, so the thinking was if we are charging like 100 rupees per employee per month, this can easily get charged like 10x, like 1,000 rupees per employee or 500 rupees per employee. Something of we had not figured that pricing out. We had to try that out. So I didn't, but definitely more than that, because the promise was if you have 20,000 employees, here is your 1,000 diabetic people, which I have looked at your data. They are the ones causing that 80% of your claims, medical claims. So this was becoming the pitch for corporates, which before that just things just started changing for us in 2019. We never got to doing that. We just couldn't penetrate that because there was too much of stakeholder management. HR did not have that as their KPI. Someone else wanted to reduce cost, so it was just too much of stakeholder management. Because India, this model works really well in US, where it's in the interest of the employer. The insurance cost is so high, it's in their interest to actually reduce it. That's why they do self-insured. They have a self-insured model. Most of the employers have that. So they are incurring a lot of cost. It's going out of the employer's pocket if the employee is sick or employee is diabetic and is costing them a lot. Here, the interest, it's costing the insurance provider. The employer is paying for it. You have to show results to them, convince them so that they will give a discount to the employer. So I think it's those frictions that we were getting caught up in back then in 2019. I'm talking about that time. And this is two such accounts. So my data is also limited to such large corporate accounts. So anyone looking to try this, the times could be completely different.
because the ROI, showing ROI was not such an easy thing to do. It would take 2 years before an insurance company would actually give a reduced premium.
I still believe this is possible, but I think timing could be becoming better in the next 5 years. Eventually, we will get there.
Okay, so let's come to your fundraise journey. 2019, you decide, okay, let's build a B2C side of the business and raise funds. Then what happened?
No, we never thought of raising B2C. We actually wanted to raise for our previous venture where we wanted to push the diabetes thing through pharmacies, through doctor clinics. That's what we had said, and corporates. Every investor I met, they wanted to invest in the profitable company of ours because this was not proven. We want to sell it this at some 7,000 rupees for 4 months. Everyone thought nobody in India is going to pay for an online program. They just kicked me out of their office, and nobody's going to pay for an online program. And while we were reading up what was happening in that clinical study, but people were getting into remission, diabetes remission. This is something that we learned while doing that clinical study. People were actually reversing type 2 diabetes, and no doctor was willing to believe when we were telling them "Okay, we actually can reverse type 2 diabetes through online." So we were actually, the distribution guy will actually distribute our product. He wasn't ready to believe in the efficacy of the program. Investors thought it's too risky. Who's going to pay for something like this? So we were like, this was the lowest period of my life.
So, how did you build subject matter expertise on diabetes to really deliver this result of diabetes remission?
I think it started with why my mom and Aditya's father was part of this clinical study. And our minimum expectation was if nothing happens, the health of our parents should, if that improves. We were just having a very low expectation in life कि अगर यार mom dad का health better कर दिया, then also it's something life में कुछ better ही किया हमने. That was the prime thing. And just by serving those patients, sitting at the clinic, listening to them, reading up parallelly with nutritionists, just getting deeper and deeper into it, understanding the classes of drugs, how the drugs impact a diabetic patient, what will it take for us to help them reduce their dependency on drugs, what are the sort of diet protocols that are working best, what are the sort of exercise protocols that are working best. So Aditya and I used to create those exercise protocols on our own. Okay, but how would we test that? If we coach 20 patients for a particular exercise protocol that we built that can be done in 3 minutes, 5 minutes, we'll watch all of theirs reading, blood glucose readings immediately afterwards. Whichever showed the maximum delta, we said this is a good exercise protocol because it's consistently working across all. Everyone can do it. They're showing drop in the sugar level. That's how we were literally testing out our diet protocols and exercise protocols. There, we just kept listening, kept talking to users, and just kept monitoring the results, and it was a feedback loop, right? They were telling us how to, what is working, what is not working for them.
But like diabetes as a field is like a field which has a lot of information on it already. What you did was productize it, did a lot of A/B testing to see what's giving better results.
Yeah, I think there are lots of myths as well. What we created were really, what we did was we understood the root cause of type 2 diabetes. So we understood that Dr. Roy Taylor had already done that study in 2012. So root cause of type 2 diabetes was insulin resistance. Okay, that's why. And how does type 2 diabetes happen? When you ask any diabetic patient, he'll tell you, I'm diabetic because my sugar levels are high. Everyone will tell you that. But that's a symptom. Your sugar levels are high, it's a symptom. It's like you having fever, me having fever. But why is diabetes happening in the first place? So if 95% of the market is type 2 diabetes, 5% of them have type 1. So type 1 is when your pancreas is not creating insulin from birth, and that's when you have to inject yourself with insulin. In type 2, pancreas is creating insulin. So the way it works is, insulin, there are two sorts of soldiers or two sorts of hormones that pancreas can create. One is insulin, the other is glucagon. So insulin is a glucose lowering hormone, and glucagon is a glucose increasing hormone. That's what happens. So if Akshay and Rohan go for a run, and body is in a deprived state now because we just ran like 3 kilometers in 15 minutes, body needs glucose. So that's when pancreas comes to life. It releases glucagon goes to all the muscles of the body. There's a bell outside, it presses the bell, ding dong, and everyone listens to glucagon and they say, what's up? So a glucagon will tell all the organs, Akshay and Rohan have gone for a run and they really need glucose right now. And all the organs will listen and they will break down the fat and release into the bloodstream in the form of glucose. So that's how glucagon functions. Similarly, the hormone that truly matters for type 2 diabetics is insulin. So if Akshay and Rohan grab lunch today, sandwiches or coffee, that increases the glucose in the bloodstream, right? Now pancreas will come to life again. It will see the glucose has gone up. It will send the soldier called as insulin, which is a glucose lowering hormone. This hormone will go to all the organs. It'll press a bell, ding dong. The door will get opened. The organ will ask, "What's up, insulin?" And insulin say, "Akshay and Rohan just met up for sandwiches, and there's excessive glucose flowing in the bloodstream. Can you just absorb the excessive glucose?" And the principle is, once the door is open, the organ will listen to whatever these messenger hormones are telling them. It will store the excessive glucose, and that's how the glucose gets moderated. And that's why you and I will not die when we have sandwiches, because insulin will be at work. Now, what happens in a type 2 diabetic? Same thing happens. They will eat sandwiches, it will get converted to glucose. Pancreas will create insulin, it will travel all the body parts, it will press the bell. The ding dong will not happen. There will be no ding dong. Now, this ding dong is insulin receptor, and insulin is trying to press that bell. And why is the insulin receptor not responding to insulin? Because you can think of it like, there is a there is some dust particles or there's some kachra that has gotten deposited, which you can call as insulin resistance. And now this is the root cause. Why, if the doors don't get opened, the glucose keeps lying in the bloodstream, and that's why when you measure it through glucometer, the glucose levels are high. And what the body will naturally do is, the pancreas will be under severe stress. It'll start creating more and more insulin, and more insulin is now going and trying to press the bell, but the body is becoming resistant with time. So this is what happens. The root cause is insulin resistance. What we did was, we just fundamentally understood the entire, we broke down that insulin resistance, and we have identified 8 factors that lead to that insulin resistance. 4 are diet related, 3 are exercise related, 1 is stress related. And we have built 500 plus such protocols that are addressing each of those 8 factors that lead to insulin resistance.
What are those 8 factors? If you can just spend a minute on that.
4 are diet related. So one of them is literally like your body being very acidic. The kind of food that you're eating is acidic. So how do you make, so fundamentally, how do you bring in more dietary protocols that make your body alkaline? The second could be refined carbs. The kind of carbs that you're consuming, it's just very refined. It has saturated fat in it. So how do you move away from that? So those are the 2 diet protocols that I just said. For exercise protocols, think of it like the body's ability to absorb excessive glucose is going down because you're losing muscle mass. How do we help you build more muscles in the body? So that's one, because that's getting stagnated. And the other is the stagnated lymph. So if the lymphatic system is getting stagnated, that means the body is not able to absorb glucose again. And how do you create more movement in your body that is activating that lymphatic system? So this is two sorts of exercise protocols that are leading to insulin resistance.
What is the lymphatic system? Sorry, I'm asking you a lot of beginner stuff, but I'm genuinely curious.
Sure. So there are two kinds of systems. Like one is circulatory system that is carrying oxygenated blood to all the organs of the body. The other is lymphatic system that is carrying all the toxic elements that get created in other organs to back to the body. So in type 2 diabetes, if you have sedentary lifestyle, you're moving less, the ability of the lymphatic system to just get that material back is just getting compromised. And that's why diabetic patients start having this neuropathy in their hand and their feet. They have numbness in their hand and their feet because the lymphatic system is not as robust as it used to be.
Coming back to the fundraise, so those 70 odd VCs said no to you. Then what did you do next?
You go to the one who actually understands what you're truly doing. That was our third attempt at getting into Y Combinator. And our chips were really down, man. We just had 2, 3 months of runway left. It was a really stressful time. 2019.
Because you were not doing much effort on corporate sales, so that's why your runway had come down. Okay.
We were a 10-member team. Initially, only one person was doing that clinical study, but the gravity and the pull of that product market fit was so much that by within 6 months, 9 out of 10 teammates were actually focusing on that. That was creating zero revenue, and only one person, one analyst, was just doing BD sales, and he was having a hard time retaining the clients because suddenly Rohan and Aditya had vanished from all the client sites, and they were just doing what was giving them a lot of joy, right? And we were just sitting outside the inside that clinics or doctor clinics and trying to push that model in different ways. So that was a really low time for us here. We were literally at crossroads back in July, and I was having some health issues as well, just getting hospitalized because of my throat, having like our own mental health vertical in the company. I was seeking therapy as well, and I was just not getting time in my own via my own counseling team, but I was just very open to that. I think that's was the one of the lowest periods because nobody was biting our story. Nobody believed in that diabetes model that this could actually be. And we were always given examples. अगर healthify me बड़ा नहीं बन पाया तो आप कैसे बनोगे? Something of that sort. Nobody has done it before.
Healthify Me was on the same lines, like online product to make you.
And back then, they were also kind of after 5, 6 years, they were still yet to do like a 10 million ARR. So I think it was just becoming those sort of tough questions. It's never been done. How is it possible? But I'm showing them data. It's happening. But I think people want to see momentum in the market rather than data of one on nobody's an entrepreneur. And she told me later on, she never thought this new model will work, but she just loved my passion for it. And she was herself stuck in an investment banking job. And she just saw like a respite to her life that helping me just gave her a lot of joy. Like I better do a good job at this model that I'm trying. And the entire team of 10 people, we just galvanized behind that, truly believed. And we just, and at YC, things just clicked there. We just prepared really hard for it, showed them traction. These are 300 people who truly love us, and we are acquiring them through all sorts of channels. I think that changed our game, getting into Y Combinator. And we were like the last offline batch that was working out of Paul Graham's garage 2020. And we suddenly started getting a lot of interest from investors when we got into YC, and then started saying no to a few investors कि no, हम तो US जाके raise करेंगे funds क्योंकि हम तो YC. And it was like another heartbreak in 4 months.
Oh, okay. So, like the lockdown happened while your YC batch was still going on.
If there's ever been a time when I've actually decided to give up, I think that was the time. Like when that was looking like a silver bullet, everything was falling in place after going through such couple of pivots, 2, 3 pivots. When demo day didn't happen, we ended up literally raising $0 after YC because there was no demo day and we couldn't convince anybody. It was and we
How much runway did you have at that time?
6, 7 months. Whatever YC gave us, that was the only money that we had. And we were at crossroads again in April 2020. It was like, should we just go back to that B2B? At least that model doesn't die. Right? This thing is very risky because we don't have any revenue generating arm. And I said, yaar, ab to jo karenge joy ke liye karenge. We'll just work for our joy and meaning. And if it dies, man, let's just at least even till our last day, we should be enjoying what we are doing. And this we were by that time, all the corporates were shut, pharmacies were shut, Doctor clinics were shut. So our entire pitch to YC was that we will get users from there, and everything was shut because of the lockdown. We were completely screwed back then. And looking at me, somehow my wife right now and my girlfriend back then, Pooja just got the guts to quit her job. She had moved to SF with me, and I just gave her a channel to work out. Like, why don't you just create one slide for me? Here's 50,000 rupees. That's all you'll get. You're in the middle of jobs. Just intern with us and just take this 50,000 and just work Facebook and Google. And I just want to tell the world that this doesn't work. That was my goal. My hypothesis was that direct to consumer will never work for us. So that if anyone asks me, I can show them this doesn't work. And all that channels were shut. So we're just figuring out what to do. And that's the beauty of beginner's mind, right? I done it, or anyone from the team would have done direct to consumer, because we knew that won't work, it would have not worked. When Pooja did it, it started working for us. And we started getting users from different parts of the country. And we were really obsessively focused on delivering outcomes, because even if you are taking 1,000 rupees, we're guaranteeing them that we will reduce our blood glucose levels in 30 days. दैट्स व्हेन जब शर्मा जी का दवाई कम होती है या उनका ग्लूकोज नीचे जाता है ना, वो 10 और लोगों को जाके बताते हैं कि यार मेरे को ना कुछ मिला है, छत पे जाके चिल्लाते हैं कि मेरा ना दवाई कम हो गई है। And we became the first healthcare pure outcomes driven healthcare company in India, which was direct to consumer, which was charging upfront, and which was growing through direct to consumer and word of mouth. And we started building these cohorts. I'm a educationist at heart, like having done the first edtech as well. For me, like clearly healthcare takes people from 0 to 1, and education takes people from 1 to 100. And बहुत ही क्लियर था हमारे लिए कि यार अगर हम हेल्थ केयर के अंदर डीप जा रहे हैं, बट दैट entire learning from education were already getting applied. We were creating these groups in the form of classrooms where Sharma ji will get bonded with Akshay ji and Verma ji in the same classroom, and they will share whatever they're doing. And we were doing because we did not trust our notification. We didn't realize we were using a community led approach to outcomes. And that's what people who recognized us later in the day told us, that's exactly what you're doing. So we started creating these communities which were people who were getting results from motivating others who were not. And it started becoming into a flywheel. So just stepped out to raise again those tough questions.
When did you step out again? This Facebook experiment was in 2020.
2020, March and April, May, word of mouth was happening in parallel, because when patients were getting results, we were starting to get word of mouth. We were charging upfront. So it was no promises.
How much were you charging?
1,000 rupees a month. We were doing some 3 months and 6 months thing at 4,000 rupees AOV and 7,000 rupees AOV, something like that. And that's when fine gentleman called as Mr. Sandeep Singhal. He's the ex MD of Nexus Venture Partners. I had met him in 2019 through Mumbai Angels, and I was not even planning to show up for the pitch to Nexus. There was Pratik Prodar and Sandeep. I was like, ये मेरे से वही questions करेंगे यार कि ये क्या है, कैसे कर रही हो, ये कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा है. And I said, but thankfully, I think again, my wife Pooja only shared कि यार चले जाओ, practice pitch हो जाएगी. I was like, चलो practice ही कराता हूँ जाके. And I was just unabashedly, and I was in that zone back in July because we just had 3 months of runway left. Extreme low point by June. And that's the only time I had mentally given up. And thankfully, that's when you need a co-founder. Aditya, my co-founder, motivated me, inspired me. There was a founding team member, Vaibhav. He's currently working at W Health. He's been with us 7 years in the journey. Because of these two people, they kept me going. They said, you know what, Rohan, we are getting results. Our product is working, right? We are growing. Everything is right. The way YC has taught us, everything is just falling into place. And I said, okay, let's 2 months. I'll not expect anything to convert. I'll just go with a mind of zero expectations and just meet 70 people. And this was one of those meetings where I just met and just narrated our story, what we are doing, the 3Cs approach, showed them our WhatsApp communities. We're building it on WhatsApp and our mobile app. And we're building our own coaching academy. So think of it like what White Hat was doing in education, we're doing it purely for healthcare, owning the supply, doing all the hard things. And I think that's where very few people were able to see through it that we were very different. And thanks to these people, I think the first check we got, which is the most special for me, was by a guy called as Christian Ranta. He's an ex YC founder as well, running a mental health company in US. I think he's a Danish guy or a Netherlands guy, I forgot. And when I reached out to him July again, He said, Rohan, I know you guys are struggling. I can't do much to help you. But do you think a small check of $10,000 would help? Because I just want to support you guys. Believe me, I think that check of $10,000 is just, I needed that validation that someone is willing to just give without expecting anything. And he just said, just send me your safe note. I'm just going to sign it all. This is my support for you guys. That gave us the right dosage of confidence at the right time. And that's how I was able to get through the remaining kind of pitches. And the first check was written by Sohail Samir when I was back in McKinsey. I forgot to share. That was the first check. Second was GSF, and third was YC. All of them are like angel seed sort of a things. And Sohail literally wrote a blank check to us. But when I was in McKinsey, he was my DGL, and my co-founder's mouth was literally open, like someone literally can write a blank check to us. And it was Sohail's first angel check, and I think he's gone out to do some 100 angels after that. And that was our first. And this Christian's check was the one that we needed the most at the right time. And after that, it was Sandeep coming in. He said, if the fund is not investing at Nexus, I'm doing my own personal check of $150,000 in them. That really helped us put together around. I think that was the point where things just changed for us. Yeah.
So this was like your Series A, which you raised.
This was a kind of a pre Series A back in 2020.
Okay.
Then there was no looking back here. Then we knew that we are creating this space and it's working. And then we also retrospectively learned what exactly we are doing. We didn't have this nomenclature of three C's. We were doing coaching because we felt we needed it. We were doing community because we knew it is driving our engagement. Just looking at our retention cohorts and nothing else. Combination of both, I think, building a team, building a stronger tech team, investing in our product, investing in our coaching academy very deeply, and customer acquisition. So this is what we were doing. But that was going into product and tech and just getting the basics of growth in order. Yeah.
So coaching academy is you're hiring coaches in house who then work with the users.
Yeah. Yeah, we said enough of relying on other people's supply. We'll just bring in fresh nutritionists right out of college. We'll train them because what we saw was very clear, right? That beginners, straight out of college, people were outperforming people who had expertise for 3, 4, 5 years because it took more time to make them unlearn what lot of wrong convictions are there. How do you manage a type 2 diabetics? Lot of wrong convictions because our approach is very contrary to what sort of protocols will work and when they will work and how they will work. And we have tested out on thousands of people right now. So we thought that a nutritionist who just someone who just has a passion in nutrition, just out of college, we just want to train that person, make them into a health coach. So one is our toolkit of the protocols, the content piece, the knowledge of diabetes reversals, the protocols. The second is the behavioral change aspect, converting them from a dietitian and a nutritionist into a health coach. So those are the two things that we teach them in our coaching academy.
So a coach is like a all-round coach, or a person has multiple coaches, like one coach for diet or one for workout and so on. Like how does it happen?
The main coach is a health coach who's a specialist in diet and a basic in fitness. We have a fitness sort of live classes happening separately, a fitness academy separately, where once or twice a month you can take a fitness plan and then practice it on through our classes. But basic is the health coaching. That's our main thing.
So you do the prescription also for the medication they need because you have doctors on payroll. But the goal is to eliminate.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do that. We initially started by just asking athletes to go to their doctors, but we realized that was way more operationally intensive because if so there are two things in glucose, right? If it goes up, it's hyperglycemia. If it goes down, it's hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia is even more dangerous if your sugar readings are going below 70. So the protocols are so efficacious, and it takes so much of ownership in driving adherence through our community protocols. The sugar level starts dropping very quickly, and that's where a medical intervention is needed quickly because the person cannot get into hypoglycemia and they cannot be an operational delay. So we've built our own medical academy as well.
Okay, got it. But the goal, of course, is to eventually not prescribe anything, but the doctors are there for as long as prescription is needed.
Exactly. You have to keep down titrating slowly and slowly, remove that dependency. Yeah.
How do you, there's a large role of data here. You need a lot of data about, say, step count or sugar level and stuff like that. So have you done some tech interventions there to gather more data effectively?
By tech interventions, no. Our approach is complete. We're the only, we have a very contrarian approach in healthcare through a hardware agnostic. We're not distributors of Abbott or any such company out there. If you're a diabetic person, if I'm a diabetic person, Whatever hardware you have, we're completely open with that. Almost every diabetic patient has a glucometer, and we are completely fine with that because they have no incentive to lie to our mobile app. They're feeding in because of the engagement. It perhaps could be a variant in future for us. We're not like allergic to it, but the way we realize that is, should I be showing down additional 4,000 rupees of cost down an Indian customer's throat? And what this 4,000 rupees of cost is resulting into? What is the delta in efficacy that is it leading to? And if our efficacy is already 2x, 3x than that of any person using the hardware, then should we invest to get from an incremental points of 90 to 95% and make someone invest additional 4,000? The rich people will anyways do it. Let them do it. So that's our approach, and we don't need it basically.
But you do integrate with an Apple Watch or all these fitness trackers. You're
Yeah, yeah, we do. We do integrate with fitness trackers. We get the steps from the pedometer inside the mobile app or your Fitbit or your Apple Watch. We obviously integrate with all. APIs are integrated. So the hardware agnostic. With my learning from a previous venture, where when Fitbit was coming into India, the other hardware companies are coming into India, we realized that in सबको आने दो, APIs open करेंगे, we'll just link with their APIs. We can't play the hardware game. It's just too much of chasing the PMF otherwise. Yeah.
amazing. I love how focused you are in terms of sticking to the core. Okay, amazing. And how do you do your customer acquisition? How much of it comes from which channel? What channels work for you?
Sure. So I think this is something we learned very early at YC as well. Business has to be built word of mouth, and thankfully, healthcare as an industry, the only businesses that can survive in healthcare are the ones who will get word of mouth. And word of mouth build करने के लिए आपको results लाके देने होते हैं. So our entire systems are designed to deliver results faster. That's how the incentives are aligned. That's how everything is aligned towards that. We are the largest in our organic traffic in our category. We are like 5x more than all our competitors put together because we are the first ones to invest in content. So our, more than 60% of our customers are coming out of word of mouth or organic.
And what content? Is YouTube videos or what? Like, what do you do for content?
No, these are blogs. We are actually gone for the texts right now. We are yet to crack the video thing, but we took a bet on blogs very early, and that has resulted into massive traffic coming onto our website through content.
Do you do something like incentivizing current users to bring in new users, like some sort of a reward program or incentives or something?
Yes, we do that. We have incentivized and inherent virality. But one key learning was nobody is only doing it for incentivize. If they have not yet themselves received results, they will never refer. I will never refer a program if I'm not happy with it, I'm not seeing results to my friend, even if I'm getting money, because my reputation is way more important to me. That's something we learned. You can't incentivize your way out of a bad product or not delivering outcomes in healthcare.
Okay. What's your average order value or what's the pricing today now?
So you're at our 6 months MRP is 24,000, our 12 months MRP is 36,000. But after discounts, 6 months is at 12,000 and currently right now, and 12 months is at around 16, 17,000. So 12, 13,000 for 6 months and 16, 17,000 for 12 months.
And like your initial hypothesis of selling through doctors, selling through pharmacies, has that progressed or is it like direct sales only?
It's direct right now, but interestingly, there are lots of doctors who have undergone the program themselves for their diabetes. They are starting to refer it to their patients. We're starting to see that wave come in now in Delhi and Bangalore. That started happening.
Is it like as lucrative for a doctor? Say you have that affiliate marketing program with e-commerce companies. So is it similar to that, that a doctor can get a reasonable revenue stream?
No, I think right now they're not. It's not a commercial sort of arrangement with any of them. They're doing it because they feel their patients need it for their lifestyle intervention, and they've seen their other patients get benefit from it, or they themselves have undergone the program. Either of the two things.
But that could be an interesting model, right? Like an affiliate kind of a model for doctors.
Could be interesting. I think offline is like 90% of the market. It could be an interesting time for us to venture. We have already proven our clinical results by publishing our results with ADA, American Diabetes Association, European Society of Endocrinology, American Association of Endocrinology. We've already published our results. And right now, when I'm meeting doctors, almost all doctors recognize that diabetes can get into remission for a certain section of diabetics. It is possible if they are there. So now the awareness of the category is also built in the last 4 years. It just feels like that. Could be an interesting time. I don't know. We've not tried it, so we don't know.
Amazing. What's your AR now?
So we've reversed type 2 diabetes for like more than 50,000 people in our total lifespan. And We are on track to get to our 1 million reversals by 2026. That's our the one mission that binds all of us.
Which, but what's the ARR like, or what do you think this year you will end at revenue wise?
So we are on track to do like a 4x, 5x every single year from here on. And we have already doubled our unit economics in the last 6 months. Our repeats are really strong, probably the highest in the category by a very good margin as far as the latest data we know. Because people are renewing their membership. It's like a biggest sort of a surprise to everyone who hears about us. And why do they do that? Think of it like all these athletes were inside the hard jail. We got them out of the hard jail and they never want to go back there. They are so excited about being in the community that they renew their membership. So we have almost more than doubled our unit economics, our LTV to CAC in the last 6 months, just removing low ROAS channels and just introducing higher ROAS channels, starting to mine our organic more deeply. So that's how we've been doing it. And even with that, I think a 4x growth every single year from here is like on the cards for us.
What's your LTV to CAC ratio?
Here we've crossed two. We've crossed two in that.
Okay. Some indication of a top line, like maybe a target, you can say that by this year we want to hit this number, or some range, something like that, just to help users get an idea.
Sure, yeah. I think next year the goal is to cross like a 10 million ARR. That's the goal somewhere in the middle of next year. That's where we would want to cross that.
Amazing. So, is this product also for other use cases like, say, obesity?
The protocols can work very strongly for weight loss or obesity. So we can, so I think we will eventually, once we take this particular product line, this vertical to like a 10 million ARR, we will be at an interesting crossroads. Whether do we become like the global powerhouse for diabetes reversal for the world, because 30% of our organic traffic is also coming from outside India, or since would have already reversed type 2 diabetes for 100,000 people back till then, should we just expand into the same households? Because India is a trust deficit country, right? If you have built trust in a household by reversing diabetes for one person, then you can then sell, the same company can sell salt, the same company can sell cars, the same some company can sell software, right? So that means PCOD, hypertension. We currently get almost 30% of our referrals for other therapies, which we turn down and reject because they're really obsessed about getting our diabetes right, the community right over there. We don't want to change that positioning right now.
So, you're currently selling outside India also, like you said, 30% of your lead traffic.
Traffic is coming there, but we have some word of mouth coming in from outside India. But that's not significant as of now.
That's not a focus. Okay. Current focus is India. Okay. This space, I believe, is called digital therapeutics, right? That would be the industry jargon for it. So, who else is there in this space? Who are the other companies in this space? And what's the difference in positioning for each of those? There would be some separate niche for each one, right? So, just to understand that.
Sure. So the original pioneer in this space is Freedom from Diabetes, Dr. Tripathi, who's been doing it since 2013-14, residential clinics. We really look up to them, like what he has done for the space. We learn from them a lot.
That's a digital product, Freedom from Diabetes.
They became online in 2020 after COVID. Before that, they were running like residential clinics, they were offline. So we really respect them and learn from them a lot. And after that, our biggest competitor is Twin Health. It's backed by Sequoia. So they are like our direct biggest competitor right now. And then there are others in this place like Fitifly, Dibefly, a subsidiary of CureFit who's also doing this. So
Sugarfit.
yeah, I think that's so. These are the players in the space right now. These are what the space comprises of. Twin Health is like our like the biggest competitor, and their approach is the one because we guys started at the same time, 2019, 20. Their approach and our approach is like poles apart. They are more like 70,000 rupees, 60,000 rupees program, a complete Western way of doing it. That you need like a patch, you need like a fitness tracker, all those hardware devices have to be attached to your body, and then they create like gather data from your body through those devices, and then they offer like very stringent keto diets. We customize your existing protocols. So that's a difference in approach.
Do you need to raise more funds to hit that goal of 1 million people for whom you want to reverse diabetes?
Yeah, from here we are on track to achieve our EBITDA positive by next year mid. That's where we are on track to do. We're on track to achieve that. After that, it'll be a call whether we would want to, what's the pace of growth we would want. If you want to deepen our investments, then probably we'll choose, we may choose to delay our EBITDA positivity and just go deeper and deeper into launching other therapies or launching other markets. That will be a call that we'll take next year. But right now, to achieve our goal, what we have set out to do, we don't need any external funds. We'll be good with that. We'll be just achieving our milestones through that, the funds that we just recently raised.
Okay. I think your headcount is about 100, odd as per LinkedIn. Tell me about org building. How do you build an organization which is aligned with the founder's vision and mission, and some insights that you can share on that front?
That is probably the toughest question you've ever asked me. It's the like we grew from like a 10-member team to like a 200-member team in like almost 1.5, 2 years. And the founders, while we really scaled our ability to build a product or probably do growth, this org building is something where we actually could have done much better. And I realized that I think last year was a tough year for us, both in just changing the trajectory in terms of profitability very quickly. And that's when you really need people to be culturally ingrained and completely obsessed about the mission. You need missionaries for a category creation. And how do you invest that proactively is something we've been doing for the last 8, 9 months. Just investing in culture first, investing in principles driven decision making first. What are the principles? Making it explicitly known, sharing it with people. Like just we just explicitly laid out our values last year in November, December. We did a leadership offsite. That was like the best thing we did. People just loved it. The 10 of our N-1s. Just what are the values that resonate best with us and our users, and how will we hold each other accountable towards those values and our actions. Like the values are another thing, right? Virtues, right? What are the virtues through which we exhibit those actions that will hold us accountable to the values that we are seeing, that are hanging so beautifully in any wallpaper, right? So I think then every week and every month, how do you institutionalize those virtues? That we do that through town halls and just making it part of every week reviews, decision making. I think still there is a lot of headroom to do better over there, but we are in a far better place where we were like a year back, where we didn't were just solving this reactively. This is like a biggest learning curve for founders. Org building thing, we brought in leaders, exceptionally good leaders. Also, because other than I realized that if we have to really build this into a large business like a $10 billion company, which we truly want to build this into, and that means 1 million reversals and maybe 1 million another therapy happening. So you have to co-create that org with them. How do you open that up? How do you not think of yourself as we are founders? Just mean that we are the first people here, nothing else here, nothing else and nothing more. There's just a tag and nothing else. How do we encourage that? How do you explicitly say that I'm wrong, my assumption was wrong, this is what I thought, I don't have access to this data? How do you kind of open it up? Because everyone should have a very strong voice. And then while that happens, now the biggest challenge is everyone has a voice, everyone's debating, we tend to become slow in decision making. That's what happens in corporates, right? Nobody wants to be slow. It's just that when everyone is having a voice, tend to get slow. So this is one thing that for org building, we have to ensure that we are co-creating the org. At the same time, also know that in the early stage, after 50 crores sort of a revenue stage, or 10 million, 100 million crores, it's founders who have to lift all the verticals up, have to go to the 10th level of detail. So how do we balance the speed, the decision making, sometimes just saying that it's my call, I'm deciding and let's just go ahead with it, with giving people enough voice that they are feeling as it's co-creation. I think these two are the balancing these two things is something that I'm also learning. So fortunately or whatever, I think I've always felt that having a coach really helps because I'm a coach myself. So and this, when you're building an org, you need a coach as well. That's been my learning. So I had a coach in my seed to series A journey, Rahul Chaudhary, who's the founder of Tribo Hotels. He's currently at Matrix. He's someone who baptized me into consulting. Amazing learning. Then I had Rahul Bhargav in my Series A to Pre-Series B journey. He's currently joining us as a founding team member. He's moving in from Canada right now. And now I'm working with another person who's just helping me with this. I think this is like the toughest thing that you've asked me, man. Yeah.
Amazing. What have you discovered about hiring leaders? Is there any a thesis that you found that this is the kind of leaders you should hire? Like, should you hire people with relevant experience from the industry, or should you hire people from, say, consulting companies and ibanks?
I've had one learning while interviewing hundreds of product managers, and can you believe it? Out of 8 years of our journey, this company has had product manager for only 6 months. It's just been me and Aditya, kind of, unlike many of our competitors or any other companies. Because I think there's something I retrospectively learned after speaking to my peers from McKinsey. मैं बोलता है मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहा है यार बंदा क्या बता रहा है यार इंटरव्यू में पूछ क्या रहा हूँ प्रॉब्लम फाइंडिंग कर ही नहीं रहा सॉल्यूशन ही फेंके जा रहा है मेरे ऊपर सो I think finding great product managers is all about going deeper with them in their problem finding skills. How do they, when given a chaotic problem, how do they prioritize data? How do they problem find? Classic case interviews is something that helps you find that. Give them like an assignment to find. Like, are they spending 80-90% of the time in structuring the problem, identifying the problem? Because I think any decent, half passionate person can solve a problem. I think it takes real competency and wisdom to problem find, invest time in problem finding. So, biggest learning is in my observation is anyone who's saying I'm doing product manager 5 years, 4 years, doesn't matter, man. They have to do like a first principles case. And if I don't see your problem finding skills, I think I just generally tend to pass on it. There's something which is validated by a couple of my peers from McKinsey who said they had 7 product managers and 6 of them were like people without any PM experience. They just brought in like consultants, ex consultants, gave them problem and they were solving it better than the classic definition of product managers. Just one learning in terms of one functional skill, and I think a similar of that can get applied to growth as well. People with first principles and people who can move faster will definitely improve things, especially for new categories. You need solid first principles thinker, but not for everything. Do not reinvent the wheel for HR. Do not reinvent the wheel for finance. These are solved problems. So don't try to innovate in HR and just learn from all the best cultures out there and create your own playbook. Like for us, we just read the Netflix culture code or Zappos culture code and picked up whatever we could. And how do we build our coaching academy? It was all inspired by Tony says thinking for in Zappos. Like all coaches just get see some sort of promotion or some sort of uptick every 6 months. All those are sort of little things we built in the an org structure. An org is like a biggest tool that a founder has at his disposal. For leaders, I think while competency is obviously essential, I think traits as well. Because if you're bringing in someone too senior, are they able to roll up their sleeves and just go deeper? That's a trait for which you need to identify. Like we recently brought in a leader in our revenue, and he's 10, 15 years elder to me. And initially, both the founders are having concerns whether we will be able to gel. Our team is of 22, 23, 24 year olds. But would you believe it? He gels much better with the 24-year-olds than both founders because he's out partying with them, out drinking with them. You need someone to exhibit those sort of things, and only then you gel into the culture. So, how cultural fit is very important there. First principles and cultural fit. I think these are the two things because these just give you like an unfair advantage. If someone is a very good cultural fit and a very good first principles problem solver, you'll always have an advantage when the situations change. Yeah.
And the best way to judge a first principles thinker is through a case study, or like what are the ways in?
Give them a problem that they've not seen or seen before and do a case on that. How do they break the problem open? Whether they are seeking all sorts of classic McKinsey kind of case solving approach. So I think that's at least it gives you an idea how the person will think on ground, right? When an unknown problem erupts, just take them into unknown territory and give them a problem. Let's see how they go about it. That's the way to judge first principle. Cultural is more like talking to, doing some strong reference checks, just hanging out with them, bringing them for lunch, dinner, whatever you can, just to see the vibe, right? And your gut feeling will be there. It'll tell you whether you want to be with the want to work with the person or not. Maybe organize like a 3 day sort of a working sort of a thing, right? Just do a problem solving session. Those sort of soft things, they're important there. I'm just still getting better at it, I would say.